Hi guys, Sam from Hot Mess Homeschool Mom here. And as you can see tonight, you are getting the hot mess part of the Hot Mess Homeschool Mom. It is late. I am exhausted. Saturdays are actually my day to work. I work on the weekends in addition to homeschooling my children to supplement my curriculum addiction. So Saturdays are rough for me. So right off the bat, you are getting this. So at least I delivered on the hot mess part. So tonight I thought it was really, really important to actually put up a video review, as I've been promising, of some of the curriculum that I use. And I really, really felt it was important to start with one of the curriculum materials or packages, I guess you could say, that I initially started my homeschooling journey with. So this has a lot of meaning to me, not only because I remember vividly researching this online on YouTube, of course, but I remember how important picking the right one felt at the time. And just a little bit of background on this. When the day I made the decision to homeschool my children, one of the first things on my list that I knew I wanted to include was Latin. And I know it sounds so strange. That's not usually like number one on priority list when you're homeschooling your kid. You get the 3 R's. Those are super important, and you want to make sure you cover all the basics. But next to those 3 R's, I knew there had to be Latin. And the reason behind that is because in my own life, Latin has been such an instrumental part of who I am and how I comprehend the things I read, and the depth of understanding that Latin enriched me with when I took it in high school. It really opened a lot of doors for me in the things I read, in the things I heard, in my ability to speak, and it just opened so many doors for me personally. And I knew I wanted to give this to my kids. Yeah, I have 2. Like I said, it's late. Anyway, so Latin was huge for me, and I wanted to make sure I got it right because my kids are young. I don't know if I mentioned this in earlier videos, but as of right now, Lovey is 9 and little dude is 6. So Latin's a huge undertaking for little kids, and most curriculum that I knew of prior to homeschooling was, pretty heavy stuff. It is an easy language to learn, but most people don't see it as such. And I wanted to make sure that I was teaching it in a fun way, and it wasn't like, Latin, why am I learning Latin, Mom? I wanted it to be fun, and I wanted it to open those doors, and I wanted to see that wonder when they heard a word and they knew the Latin word that it originated from. So again, quick background on the reasons for this particular decision and the meaning behind it for me personally. So this is what led me also into discovering the wonderful world of classical homeschooling, or the classical model. And in my research, there are multiple providers of Latin for children, and it was a tough call between 2 of them. And I'm not going to mention the other one because I'm sure if you do a quick Latin search, you'll find the other primary Latin source. But I'm going to highlight the one that I ultimately chose, and the one that ultimately led me to discover my favorite publisher, and also led me to find a lot of my remaining curriculum. So without further ado, here is Song School Latin. And this has been so much fun, not only for me, the dog again, not only for me, but my kids, and to some extent my husband as well. He was actually able to participate in this, and although he works full-time, he's not only my biggest supporter, but he also makes sure that he is engaged in my children's learning. So this was fun for him too, and I'll show you why in a minute. I'll show you how, even though he doesn't know Latin, he was able to participate and enrich the kids' learning by using this program. So, firstly, again, you will see that it is by, well, maybe not, I don't know where that emblem is, but it is by Classical Academic Press. And their tagline is classical subjects creatively taught. And this could not be more true. So creative, so much fun. And I'll show you the inside in a minute. I'm going to get to the pages, but I want to show you the package that comes with it. So when you get it, it's this workbook. It's pretty thick. I mean, it's got some substance to it. When you first get it, you will also find that there is in the back, which I have removed, and I will show you the disc in a minute, but you get an audio CD. And this is crucial because you learn when you're studying languages that you want to not only hear it spoken, but that songs help remember. It really makes that information stick. And I'm struggling with my words tonight, so please bear with me, but I will get my point across eventually. So when you open it up, you'll see the index page. So here's your table of contents, and I'm having trouble seeing it, but it's basic stuff. So greeting words. I mean, my kids now go around greeting people, so way, and people will look at me and be like, what are they saying? And it's become second nature. That's always hello in Latin, and it becomes so second nature with this program that they're able to speak it naturally, not only to each other, but to other people as well. So anyway, greeting words, making friends, how are you, quid agis, so again, that's another thing. They'll go up to people, quid agis, and people have no idea what they're saying, which is fantastic, but so you'll see all the different things, and it's pretty basic stuff. It's really, really, really on their level. It's really fun. When you first get to it, so there's the classical pronunciation and the ecclesiastical pronunciation, and these are two important distinctions because you can pick and choose. So the classical pronunciation is Latin, classically spoken, such as the name implies, and ecclesiastical is what the church tends to use. So there are variations, and Classical Academic Press does an awesome job of letting you pick which one you want, not only in the audio CD that accompanies it, but also, which I will show you again further in a moment, in the DVDs as well. So you can actually select either to play the videos in the classical pronunciation or in the ecclesiastical pronunciation. And I'll get to that in a minute. So that goes over it a little bit more. It goes over the Latin alphabet, which is different than our spoken alphabet. So I'll show you one chapter and then I'll kind of flip through. So this is the beginning. You get the chapter song, so everything that's on the CD you actually get the words to it. So if you have not had an introduction to Latin as a parent, you can pretend like you understand it, and it's there for you. And it's also there for the kids as well. Growing up, my mom used to say, read it, write it, spell it, and that's how it sticks. And it's true. You read it, you write it out, you spell it, and you also hear it, and that creates the neural pathways for memory. So then you get the chapter lesson, and it starts out really, really, really basic. So what we did, because I have two kids, little dude, when we first started homeschooling, was not able to read or write. He now can, yay, yay me. So he can now read and write. So what I first did, I started making copies rather than using the actual workbook. So Lovey used the copies that I had made, and I put them in a binder for her. And this way I was able to save the workbook for future use. And now he is at the point, I have come back to it, now that my daughter has graduated to the next level, which I'll cover in another video. But now he's on to Song School Latin. Again, the first time he was just hearing it, doing the games. He wasn't necessarily doing the reading or the writing part of it, but he was still getting it. So now that he's going through the program again, he's actually more engaged with it and able to utilize all of the tools now that he can write. So here I dictated it for, transcribed it for him, not dictated. He dictated, I transcribed. So this is my writing. But here you'll see quid est tuum praenomen, and then meum praenomen est. So this, he's getting this, and he is able to respond. What is your name? My name is, and he's able to write it out. And it's so cute, and it's so cool being able to see him write now. That's really cool for me. So, and then they get little fun activities that they can do. Circle it. I would ask him, I would read it to him. Obviously, praenomen, he's 6, so I wouldn't expect him to be able to read that. But older kids can. And I forget the age limit on this, but again, Lovey was 8 when we started this, and this was perfect for her. It was fun for her. So that's a typical chapter. They're pretty short, and they, there's some substance to them. I think, I want to say, and again, please forgive me if I'm wrong, if you can use this however you want. I believe the recommendation is 1 chapter a week. We did not follow that. We were doing probably 2 to 2.5 per week, and the schedule I would use or what worked for us was, one day I would do, the DVD for the chapter, and that was Latin for the day, and then the next day and the day after that would be the workbook part of it, and I would play the disc with the songs as we were doing other things. So, if they were playing with Play-Doh, or if we had a project, or whatever it might be, the disc would be playing in the background. So, Song School Latin, Book 1. Now, Classical Academic Press, again, has some awesome supplemental material to go with this. So, not only do you have the disc, the CD to listen to with the songs, and the DVD, but they also offer these cool little cards. And this is where my husband being able to participate came into play. So this game is called, I'm just going to pull out a few so you can see. It's called Latin Monkey Match. And there are some different game suggestions that you can use with these cards. So for this one, for example, soror, sister, sorority, that's one of my favorite words. So soror, he doesn't know what soror, my husband doesn't know what soror means, so the answer would be at the bottom. So, but he was able to play the games with the kids, and one of my fondest memories of our first few days of homeschooling as a family is playing this game and watching my children correct him on his Latin. I don't know if he necessarily found it humorous, but I certainly did. So this was a fun way to reinforce the material and get everybody involved. And it didn't really feel like schooling, but it was. And these words, let me tell you, they stick. Still to this day, we had, fish for dinner the other night, and my daughter was like, "Piskis," so it's there in their head through this stuff. They also, Classical Academic Press, on their website, I believe it's called Adventureland, and I will try to link to it. There are some free materials on there. Classical Academic Press offers some awesome free materials in general just on their website, but on Adventureland, I believe you can do the first few activities online, games, songs, videos. There's some really awesome stuff there you can check out for the first couple of chapters, I believe, of each of their programs. And then if you like it, you can elect to subscribe to their program online as well. So again, it's not necessary. You can do the program all on its own with just the workbook and the DVDs. You don't necessarily need the cards or the Adventureland or anything other than that. And the CD comes with the workbook. You can find it on Amazon. However, I choose, even though the shipping quite isn't as fast as Amazon, I choose to go through the publisher most often. It's just a personal preference. I like to support them. I like to support them directly rather than through Amazon. So that's just what I do. But again, if you like it, you can find more reviews on Amazon of the material. So again, just quickly flipping through, I'll go through and let you kind of look. I did the first chapter, but just to go through a few more. So this is what a typical chapter page looks like, the first one. Please forgive the band-aids on my fingers. We got a kitten, a really baby kitten, and he's got really sharp claws and really sharp teeth, and he really likes to play. So my fingers were tonight's toy. So my son hasn't gotten to this one. That's why you're seeing a blank page. My daughter has. I probably should have brought her workbook up so you could see it filled out, but you get the gist. Here's another one of that same chapter. And these are traceable at first. So the younger ones can participate as well as the older ones. For the older kids, this might be a little more simplistic. We actually purchased Latin for Children, their other program that I'm now using with Levy a year later. That one is much more in-depth, much more grammar, I believe is the word. It's more intense with the grammar and the conjugation, and I didn't want to get too much into that. It does cover a little bit of that. You know, she can do the she can do the chant in her sleep. I'm pretty sure my husband can now do the chant in his sleep. So, but I didn't want to go too heavy on that right off the bat. And this was really light, really fun, and it not too intimidating for the little guys. So, you know your kids, you know, depending on the ages, you can, looking at this, you can see whether or not yourself, if it's a little too young. If it is, go straight into Latin for Children. And I will do a review on that as well. But if that might be a little too heavy for your taste right off the bat, or you're not comfortable with Latin yourself, this is an awesome place to start and a fun place to start, truly. So I believe, yeah. Oh, and one thing I also forgot, I almost wanted to show you. So every couple of chapters, they'll have a review, and it'll cover, I believe, 3 to 4 of the chapters you just covered. So you'll get your vocabulary words all together, the songs as well. Sorry, I'm reading this upside down, so bear with me. Chapter story. So it kind of ties everything from the past couple of chapters together, and then at the end you'll get a story that you can read aloud. And the way I believe the way you are supposed to do this, but the way I did it as well is I read it out loud, and then every time they hear a word in Latin, they raise their hand and tell me what it is. So this gives it in context, so that you see the vocabulary words, casa, you know, as you're reading in English with the Latin vocabulary in there with the context, and it makes it make sense a little bit more. So that is that is Song School Latin Book 1. Now, the reason it's Book 1 is because there is also Book 2, which we also went through. This one is filled out. I will purchase another one for little dude when the time comes. This one is substantially thicker. There is more meat to this one, and this is why when I received it, I was like, I'm not going to make copies of this one. I'm just gonna suck it up, and I'm going to buy him his own workbook. So Here's a nice little example. I just kind of picked to a random page. So this, partially because I like how neat her writing is. Her writing has substantially improved this year, and I'm quite proud of that. So this is, and this gets more into the chants. The first one was very, very light. This one starts to pull more of the grammar, pull more of the conjugation, and it's a nice transition right into Latin for children. And so I'll do another full review on this one, I think, but it's the same idea, just a little bit more meat to it. The next step up, same idea. You get the audio CD in the workbook, then you purchase the DVD separately. Same idea. You get also classical pronunciation, ecclesiastical pronunciation on the same disc. In the menu, you choose which one you do. I elect to go with the classical pronunciation. Again, I mentioned that I am more secular in my leanings. I'm not teaching my children Latin because I want them to be able to follow Mass. I want them to learn Latin because it is the root. And again, it's late. I forget the exact percentage. I'm taking a educated guess. I believe it's something like 70-something% of English words come from Latin. And again, if you have never been exposed to Latin, when you do this program with your child, you're going to hear them. And they do something called derivative river on both 1 and 2, where they pull in English words and where the root, not only in English, but also in the other Romance languages, such as Spanish, Portuguese, French, and they'll do a nice little segment on how they all tie together and how they all originate from Latin. So by choosing the classical pronunciation, my thought was I'd stick more to the roots of Latin and hopefully give them a leg up on their rhetoric rhetoric abilities, and also their comprehension in reading and communicating in general. Again, Latin has opened up so many doors in my ability to, if I encounter a word that I'm not familiar with in a text, I'm able to pick it apart and find not only the roots, but the suffixes and the prefixes and everything else. But enough about me. But those are the benefits of Latin that I received and that I wanted my kids to have. Kind of, I guess, the hack of the English language is Latin, and this has been awesome for us. Song School Latin has been phenomenal for both of my children. So this is going to be a review that I strongly encourage. There was no part of this, not one single part of either of these books that did not work for us. Again, being secular, there are parts in there, don't have a reference off the top of my head, but there are some biblical references, and I just kind of roll with it. Kind of like whatever. The Bible was a book, and I just go with it. It was in the book. You know, this is what it says in Latin. Didn't make a big deal out of it. Personal choice, but if you are strictly secular, you might be hard-pressed to find a Latin curriculum that is not made by a publisher that tends more towards religious material. But if you find one, please comment below, let me know. But I think even if you're strictly secular, there's so much good stuff in here, you can't go wrong. So I think I pretty much covered everything. This was my first taste of classical academic press, and I was hooked from day one. I could not wait to see what else they made, because this was just so well done. And I have not yet been disappointed by any of their materials. So not only that, but if you contact them. Their customer service is bar none, like phenomenal. Quick backstory. When I was purchasing something on their direct website during a sale, I was having an issue with something, I don't even know, and I just reached out to them, and they not only resolved the issue, but a few days later, I find this awesome package in the mail and this lovely handwritten note and a gift. And this is one of my favorite. I couldn't even believe it. I posted it all over Facebook. I've never had that level of customer service. It was just such an awesome gesture. And again, they're not sponsoring this. I wasn't given anything to do this review. I just legitimately love them. It's one of those like, oh, I love Happy Planner. I really, really love Happy Planner. Well, I really, really, really love Classical Academic Press and customer service, their products, just phenomenal. So please check them out. If you have any questions, concerns, anything more you want me to kind of show you in the book, please feel free to comment below. As always, please like and subscribe to my channel. The support means a great deal to me, and I cannot thank you guys enough for continuing to visit with me. Again, have an awesome night. I am going to bed. I am so tired. My cat is on the other side trying to get to my fingers again. So this is my time to go to sleep. I'm getting punchy, and I will catch you guys later.